Hello and welcome to the final review of the 2025 preseason after the Blues convincingly beat the Giants at Manuka Oval. Friday night was the Giants 9 goals, 12, 66. To the Blues 18 goals, 16, 124. And weirdly, a sigh of relief for me. Don't know how you all saw it, but I think it was needed. And the best word to summarize it that I came up with last night during the fan cams was just a little bit of nourishment. I felt we needed it. It was a tough week for everyone involved. The injuries that came out of the St Kilda match simulation flattened, I think, a lot of us, if not everyone. You lose Jagger to the ACL for the year. You lose both backup ruckmen for at least about a month, give or take. Durds, you lose him for about a month as well. And some sore bodies. Compounded what was already an injury concerning preseason when you talk about the likes of Sam Walsh and Charlie Curnow and these guys, and I think to an extent Jordan Boyd. And so I think we just needed a little bit of positivity. And who would have thought you put a Camporelli on a wing, you put a Silvani in defense, and then all of a sudden things start looking like they're falling into place. I thought it was a positive way to end the preseason and really just, listening to Aaron Hamill's press conference in the end, he spoke about the word progression, and that's exactly what it looked like, and that's what I hope to see, and that's what it was. Now, the actual result itself doesn't matter, just like the result the week before didn't matter, but the manner in which the game was played, I think, did matter, because it's the final time that we'll get to practice anything before the season starts. We've got about 2 weeks now before we play against the Tigers in round one. The Giants, on the other hand, play next week. But when you look at this game, I was curious to see the intensity and the urgency with which Carlton played with, and it was there from the very beginning. I felt 5 minutes into the game, I wanted Tom de Koning to stop, because it's like he was showing all of his cards and he was setting the tone. He was doing some things, getting the ball out of contest and showing exactly why the hype is there about him. But yeah, that intensity around the contest was clearly there from the outset. It was almost like I expected it to dip a bit. And then when Harry Mackay doesn't play for most of the game, when some of these guys rest, when we take Cripps off in that second half, Chera plays 57%, you would expect there to be a bit of a dip, and it didn't happen. And that's good. I thought the intensity was there for 4 quarters. There were comments made around the second quarter where the Giants, they responded. They actually, tried their best, I thought. And so to see that intensity stay there and to see things working, to see the team defense continue to shine through and opportunities for scoring continue to happen, positive. Yeah, it was good. So many individual storylines that I think are important. I think the first one should be Jack Silvani. That was the first time he played since doing the ACL. And it seemed to just seamlessly work. He took a few intercept marks early in the game, which I think would have been great for his confidence. He played most, if not all of the time, on Aaron Cadman, who I think is a guy that, still is up and coming, but also a guy that's going to be trying his best to perform well. So it was good to see Jack back out there. Nick Haynes, I thought, just continued to show his football IQ. You don't become an All-Australian without knowing the tricks, without knowing the angles. And his intercept marking and his ability to read the ball and the flight of the ball, I should say, I think very impressive. I get the feeling it's just going to work with him. I always did feel that when he first got to the club. And, there's some things that I still think he will improve on. Just figuring out when he kicks the ball to certain teammates, which side of their body to kick it to, and that sort of thing will come. And then I think the big surprise is, well, for me, it was a surprise, maybe not for some of you, but Lucas Camporelli played pretty solid last week against the Saints and then got the spot named on the wing for this game against the Giants. Now, I don't know if it was just rotation policy or if it was just a reward mechanism for whatever he's been doing at training and in the match sim last week. But, a lot of the preseason talk has been around a guy like Jackson Binns, for example, and how, he's ready to take the next step, own that spot on the wing and go from there. And to see Lucas get rewarded by being named the way he was and then perform and, have even the AFL's Twitter account and Instagram account and AFL media post about him, like that's a good sign. I think that gives some good encouragement to him. Still very early days in his career, but to see him get some attention like that and get rewarded and continue on with rewarding the form, thought it was a good positive sign. Again, a bit of nourishment there for the supporters and for all of us, but most of all for Lucas. And then you've got the forward line, which we saw Brodie Kemp return to the seniors. And then you saw as the game progressed, he seemed to get better and better with what he was doing. We saw and we heard from Michael Voss throughout, I think, the broadcast. He was talking about, Zach Williams, Jesse Motlop, these guys. Yeah, I mean, you can categorize them as small forwards, but they're also going to be pushing up into the midfield. And I think those two in particular, I mean, Zach Williams, now that we've seen him twice, I mean, he just recaps a really solid preseason, and there was one particular passage of play where he danced through traffic, and it reminded me of what we were all excited about with Zach Williams when he first got to the club, and the idea of him being that halfback flanker for the Giants, who then was going to hopefully become a midfielder at Carlton, and that type of movement throughout stoppage, we don't have many players that do it, and so to see him have some minutes there. To see Jesse Motlop, who didn't hit the scoreboard like he did the week before, but just to see them rotate through there, I think was good. And to see the fact that we generated so many scoring opportunities without Charlie Curnow, without Harry Mackay, and then even on the broadcast, they were talking about the way that we defended, and it wasn't a performance where you look at it and say, oh, Jacob Wiedering dominated in defense. Good signs. So, not to get too carried away, but I definitely was. I think I wasn't too worried about beating the Giants or beating them by a certain margin. I think for me, it's the fan cams, and I was like, oh, I just don't want to lose or lose badly because I know that a lot of people will feel and read into it, and that's the one thing I was not looking forward to pre-game. So for it to turn out the way it did, and to ride some positive momentum going into round one was pleasing. Injury concerns, there were none, apart from Mitch McGovern. Now, apparently he hurt an ankle in the contest before the one that we all saw on screen. I got a few messages from people that were at the game saying it happened in the contest before, and then apparently he jarred it when he took that mark. The way I saw it, it seemed like he was grabbing at the hamstring. And then there's a still image of him online somewhere where he's actually grabbing at the ankle. So it seems like he jarred the ankle. That's what Nick Newman said. Aaron Hamill in his press conference said nothing to worry about. He's fine. So whatever, let's just hope that's the case. But honestly, apart from that, no injury concerns, which was, I think, the most sensitive topic going into the game. So good stuff. And that's it. So now a number of questions get raised because spots become tighter and tighter. Does Lucas play round one? Seemed to be a really exciting notion from the fans last night on the fan cams around Lucas playing in round one. You got quite a few senior guys who just managed their way through the game with their game time, but still showed enough to just get through. I don't know where Sam Walsh is at and if he's going to be ready for round one or if Jordan Boyd's going to be ready and available for round one, but there's a few more names that you add to the list, and Oh, okay. We get through another preseason. So a couple of weeks. We have to watch opening round next week, which is great. I don't mind that. I think that'll only just build the anticipation. And then we get to Thursday night at the MCG and the Aliti, the noise, almost like the opportunity to finally move on from 2024, because I spoke about this last night too. I personally feel that frustration with how it all ended, and I'm sure everyone on the inside of the club feels that too. You know, everyone's pissed off. Everyone's pissed off with the way things unfolded at the end of 2024 after getting into such a strong position. So there's that. There's the way it ended. There's being down 10-0 in the final. Then there's this off season where we, move on from some players that were, I don't know if they were really fan favourites, because a lot of them got slated during their time at Carlton, but when they leave, all of a sudden they're fan favourites. We draft kids, we get some father-sons, we get Jagger, and then we just eliminate football from our minds. And then it's, we sort of start the engines over the last few weeks, and then we're reminded about the frustration, and then that gets a little bit compounded with controversy and the injuries, and then you lose Jagger, and then it just hurts even more. So all of these things are bubbling, and it's just the perfect storm for hopefully a good season. But it all starts with Richmond, and we'll go from there. It's the best time, because you know that you've got a full season ahead of you. You got to get through that first month. You want to bank wins, and then before you know it, you're in the thick of it. And then before you know it, it's round 12 and you're halfway through. And so the cycle will return, and the soul of Melbourne will return and ignite. And it's all hope at this stage, really. It's just, I'm hopeful that it's going to be a great year. I'm hopeful for a positive experience. Ultimately, it's out of my control and everyone's control. And whatever, that's the footy. So those are my sentiments and my thoughts. What about you? Did you feel like you needed to see what you saw yesterday? Like, did you feel the frustration and that sadness going into the game? And did that game against the Giants maybe help just kickstart a little bit of excitement for the season ahead? Or do you just stick to your guns about preseason not mattering, and even though that we got injured and the like, you're still waiting for round one? So yeah, just share your thoughts below about where your head's at with everything, really. A pulse check. I asked as many of you on the fan cams about that, but if you were not on the fan cams, leave a comment below with a pulse check. How you feeling after preseason has finished, and how you're feeling now going into round one. Chat to you then. Go Blues.